Some betrayals hit you like a freight train. Others arrive wrapped in birthday paper with a bow on top. Mine came dressed as a toast at my 70th birthday party, delivered by the son I raised to believe family meant everything. I'm Lorraine Mitchell, and before I tell you what happened that night, I need you to understand something. I spent 43 years as a schoolteacher in Vermont, living in the same modest house my late husband Daniel and I bought in 1978. I drove the same Subaru for 15 years. I clipped coupons not because I had to, but because waste felt wrong. My children, Marcus and Jennifer, grew up watching me turn leftovers into meals and shopping at thrift stores when their friends wore designer labels. I taught them that happiness doesn't come from what you own. It comes from who you are and who you love. I really believe they learned that lesson. Before we go further, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city or state in the comments. It helps me know I'm not alone in this, and honestly, after what I'm about to tell you, knowing there are good people out there still matters to me. The party was Jennifer's idea. She insisted on hosting it at the lake house, the one place that held every precious memory of our family. Daniel and I had scrimped and saved for years to buy that cabin in 1989. It wasn't fancy, just 3 bedrooms, a dock that needed constant repair, and a view of Lake Champlain that made everything else disappear. We spent 25 summers there before Daniel's heart attack took him from me in 2014. After he died, that lake house became sacred ground. It was where I still felt him, where I could sit on the porch at sunset and almost hear his laugh carried on the wind. Marcus flew in from Seattle with his wife Amanda. Jennifer drove up from Boston with her husband Craig and my 2 grandchildren, Sophie and Emma. There were about 30 people there, former colleagues, neighbors, my book club ladies, Daniel's brother Raymond and his wife. Jennifer had decorated the place with photos spanning 7 decades of my life. Baby pictures, wedding photos, Daniel and me standing in front of the lake house the day we bought it, both of us grinning like we'd won the lottery. The afternoon was perfect. We ate Jennifer's potato salad and Marcus's grilled salmon. The grandkids swam off the dock while adults lounged in lawn chairs, telling stories about the old days. For a few hours, I felt like the luckiest woman alive. I had raised 2 successful children who seemed to love me. I had friends, I had health, I had enough money from Daniel's life insurance and my teacher's pension to live comfortably, not extravagantly, but comfortably. As the sun started setting, Jennifer brought out the cake, a 3-layer chocolate affair that probably cost more than I'd spend on groceries in a month. Everyone gathered around the dining table. Marcus stood up, wine glass in hand, and I felt that warm maternal pride wash over me. My son, so handsome and confident, about to say something meaningful about his mother. Saf, I should have known better. Marcus cleared his throat and the room fell silent. He had always been good at commanding attention. Debate team captain in high school, now a corporate attorney who argued cases in front of judges. He knew how to work a room. To Mom, he began, raising his glass high. His smile was broad, genuine-looking. 70 years of showing us what really matters. You taught us we don't need much to be happy, that the best things in life aren't things at all. Everyone murmured in agreement, glasses lifted. I felt tears prickling my eyes because yes, that was exactly what I'd tried to teach them. That was the legacy I wanted to leave. You never asked for anything, Marcus continued. Never wanted fancy vacations or expensive jewelry, just family time at this beautiful place Dad left us. You're the most content person I know, and that's a gift you gave Jennifer and me. The applause started as he finished. People were dabbing their eyes. My friend Patricia reached over and squeezed my hand. This was my moment, my validation that I'd done motherhood right. Then Marcus sat down. He leaned toward Jennifer, who was seated to his right. I was standing at the head of the table, cake knife in hand, positioned to make the first cut. They were maybe 3 feet away. The general chatter had resumed. People talking, laughing, moving around to refill drinks. But I have excellent hearing. Always have. It's a teacher thing. You learn to catch whispered conversations in the back of the classroom. Marcus's voice was low, meant only for his sister. But in that brief pocket of relative quiet, before someone started a new conversation, I heard every single word. Once she's gone, we're splitting the lake house and retirement accounts. Fair warning, I want the lake house. You can have more of the liquid assets. Jennifer's response was equally quiet. We'll talk about it. But yeah, there should be around $2 million altogether between everything. Maybe more if we sell this place at the right time. My hand froze halfway to the cake. The knife suddenly felt impossibly heavy. The room kept moving around me, people laughing, music playing from someone's phone, the grandkids running through, but I was completely still. A statue wearing a birthday crown someone had put on my head earlier. $2 million. They'd calculated my worth down to the dollar. And the lake house, the place where their father and I had built our happiest memories, was just real estate to be divided. Lorraine, you okay, honey? Patricia's voice cut through my shock. You need to sit down? I blinked. Everyone was looking at me now. Marcus and Jennifer wore expressions of concern that suddenly looked like masks. Had they always been masks? How long had I been blind? I'm fine, I heard myself say. My voice sounded normal, steady, just overwhelmed by all this love. The lie tasted bitter, but I smiled. I cut the cake. I accepted hugs and well wishes. I played the role of grateful mother and beloved friend for another 3 hours while my world crumbled silently inside my chest. And I began to plan. That night, after everyone left, I sat alone on the lake house porch. Jennifer had offered to stay to help clean up, but I'd insisted I wanted to watch the stars by myself. A birthday tradition, I told her. Time to reflect on the year ahead. She'd hugged me tight. Love you, Mom. Today was perfect. Perfect. That word kept echoing in my head as I watched the moonlight dance across the lake water. I didn't cry. That surprised me. I thought I'd fall apart the moment I was alone, but instead I felt cold, calculating. My mind was working through facts and figures with a clarity I hadn't experienced in years. The lake house was worth approximately $800,000. I owned it free and clear. Daniel's life insurance had paid off the mortgage in 2014, and property values in this area had skyrocketed since we'd bought it for $95,000 in 1989. My retirement accounts, the 403B from my teaching years, the IRA Daniel and I had contributed to religiously. Some smart stock investments Daniel made before he died totaled about $900,000. Plus, I had roughly $300,000 in savings and CDs. $2 million. They'd done their homework. I wondered how long they'd been calculating. Had it started before Daniel died? Had my children sat around discussing their inheritance while their father was still alive? My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Thanks for a great party, Mom. You're an inspiration. Love you. Jennifer had sent something similar. Best birthday celebration ever. You deserve all the happiness in the world. I set the phone down without responding. In the morning, I'd drive back to my house in Burlington. I'd thank them both for the lovely party. I'd maintain the facade for exactly as long as it took me to dismantle the future they'd mapped out. Because here's what they didn't know about their simple, content, undemanding mother. I wasn't simple. I was careful. There's a difference. I'd taught myself to live within my means because that's how you build security, how you create options. Daniel and I had made sacrifices so we'd have choices later. And now I was going to exercise those choices. Sunday morning, I made coffee and watched the sunrise over the lake. I thought about every summer Daniel and I had spent here, teaching Marcus to swim off the dock when he was 4. Jennifer's 16th birthday party where she and her friends stayed up all night talking on the porch. The summer after Daniel died when I'd come here alone and cried so hard I thought I'd be sick, then slowly found my way back to something like peace. This place was sacred because of those memories. But Marcus was right about one thing. The best things in life aren't things, and memories don't live in buildings. They live in hearts. The lake house was just wood and nails. Daniel wasn't here. He was gone. Holding on to this property because I thought it honored him was a mistake. Daniel would never have wanted me to sacrifice my dignity for a piece of real estate. By the time I locked up the lake house and drove home that Sunday afternoon, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Monday morning at 9 o'clock, I called Richard Pemberton. He'd been our real estate agent when Daniel and I bought the lake house. He was 76 now, semi-retired, but still handled select properties. When I told him I wanted to list the lake house, there was a long pause. "Lorraine, are you sure? That place means everything to you." "It meant everything to Daniel and me," I corrected. "Now it's just a house, a very valuable house that someone else should enjoy." "The market's strong right now," Richard said carefully. "Lakefront properties are moving fast. I could probably get you asking price within 2 weeks if we price it right." "Let's price it to sell in 1 week," I said. "I want this done quickly." Another pause. "Are the kids on board with this?" "Richard, it's my house. I don't need anyone's permission." "Of course not. I just thought, I'll have the place cleaned and staged by Wednesday. Can you have someone over to photograph it Thursday?" We hammered out the details. Richard would list it at $795,000, slightly below market value to generate multiple offers. In this market, with lakefront property scarce, we'd likely get full asking or higher. The house was in excellent condition. I'd kept it maintained meticulously over the years, knowing Daniel would want it cared for properly. My next call was to Patricia. She arrived at my house within an hour, bringing coffee in her characteristic bluntness. "You want to tell me what's really going on?" She settled into my kitchen chair and fixed me with the look that had made her an effective high school principal for 20 years. "Jennifer called me this morning, worried sick. Said you seemed off at the party." "I'm selling the lake house." Patricia's eyebrows shot up. "The hell you are. Already listed. Well, will be by Thursday. Lorraine Margaret Mitchell. My middle name is Anne. Don't deflect. What happened?" And there, in my kitchen with my oldest friend, I told her every word of what I'd overheard. Patricia's face went from shock to furious to something resembling pride. "Those ungrateful little—" She caught herself. "What's your plan?" "Sell everything. The lake house is just the start. I'm liquidating the investment accounts, the CDs, everything except what I need for basic living expenses and emergencies. Then I'm going to spend it." "On what?" "Life, Patricia. Experiences, travel, things I've always wanted to do but never did because I was too busy being responsible and modest and teaching my children that happiness comes from within." Patricia started laughing. Not polite laughter, great whooping guffaws that made her coffee slosh in the cup. "Oh, this is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful. What are you going to do first?" "I'm booking a world cruise." "A what now?" "A year-long world cruise. I've always wanted to see the Greek islands, the Norwegian fjords, Japan during cherry blossom season. There's a luxury line that does a circumnavigation, leaves from Fort Lauderdale in January, doesn't return for 365 days, costs about $150,000 for a balcony cabin." Patricia whistled low. "That's not revenge. That's poetry." By Wednesday afternoon, I'd hired a cleaning service to deep clean the lake house and a staging company to make it photograph ready. I drove out there Tuesday to remove personal items, photos, Daniel's fishing gear that I'd kept in the garage, a quilt my mother had made that always draped over the couch. I packed everything methodically, without sentiment. The items mattered. The building didn't. Jennifer called while I was boxing up books from the lake house shelves. "Hey, Mom, just checking in. You seem tired after the party. You feeling okay?" "I'm fine, honey. Just busy this week." "Busy with what? Need any help?" The solicitude in her voice made my jaw clench. She'd calculated my death value at $2 million 4 days ago, and now she was playing concerned daughter. "Just organizing some things. Nothing exciting." "Well, don't overdo it. You're not as young as you used to be." I bit back a sharp response. Instead, I said, "Jennifer, when you think about your inheritance, what matters most to you?" Silence. Then carefully. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what would you want me to leave you? If you could choose—" "Mom, that's a weird question. I don't think about that stuff." Liar, I thought, but out loud, humor me. "I guess Knowing you were happy, knowing you lived the life you wanted. That would matter most. More than the lake house? Another pause, longer this time. Where is this coming from? Just a woman turning 70, thinking about legacy, what we leave behind. You're going to be around for another 20 years at least, Jennifer said firmly. Stop being morbid. After we hung up, I sat in the empty lake house living room and felt nothing. No sadness, no anger, just a clear, cold certainty that I was doing exactly the right thing. Richard called Thursday evening. Photos are done. Listing goes live tomorrow morning. Lorraine, I'm already getting inquiries just from other agents I've mentioned it to. This is going to move fast. Good. Friday morning at 10, my phone started ringing. Marcus first. Mom, what the hell is going on? Why is the lake house listed for sale? Because I'm selling it. You can't just sell it without talking to us. Actually, Marcus, I can. It's my property. But it's Dad's legacy. It's our family home. It's a house, Marcus, and I've decided I don't need it anymore. This is insane. You're not thinking clearly. Maybe we should... Should what? Have me evaluated for competence? I'm 70, not senile. I've made a business decision about an asset I own. His voice turned cold. Professional. Lawyer Marcus, instead of son Marcus. We need to discuss this as a family. Don't do anything else until we can all sit down together. There's nothing to discuss. But if you want to fly across the country for a conversation, that's your choice. I hung up. Jennifer called 30 seconds later. I let it go to voicemail. Then Marcus again. Voicemail. A text from Jennifer. Mom, please call me back. We're worried about you. I turned off my phone and poured myself a glass of the expensive wine Patricia had brought over. Then I opened my laptop and started researching world cruises. The lake house sold in 4 days. 6 offers came in, 2 above asking price. I accepted an offer of $835,000 from a young couple with 3 kids who reminded me a little of Daniel and me 35 years ago. They were thrilled. They had dreams. They'd make new memories there. Marcus and Jennifer were less thrilled. They staged what I assume they thought was an intervention that following weekend. Both of them showed up at my house Saturday morning, unannounced, with matching expressions of concern. Mom, we need to talk. Jennifer sat down at my kitchen table without being invited. Marcus stood, arms crossed, looking every inch the attorney about to present him his case. I'm listening, I said. This impulsive behavior isn't like you, Marcus began. Selling the lake house without consulting us, refusing to answer our calls. We're concerned something's wrong. Maybe you should see a doctor. I saw my doctor 2 weeks ago for my annual physical. I'm in excellent health, but thank you for your concern. Then why are you doing this? Jennifer's voice cracked. That house is our childhood. It's where we spread Dad's ashes off the dock. It's where I want to bring Sophie and Emma every summer, where I want them to make the same memories we did. This was the moment. I could back down. I could tell them I'd overreacted, that of course they could still use the house, that maybe the new owners would let us visit. I could preserve the fiction that we were a close, loving family. Instead, I said, it's interesting that the lake house matters so much to you now. At my birthday party, it seemed like you viewed it primarily as a real estate asset. Marcus's face went carefully blank. Jennifer looked confused. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the conversation you had at my party, when Marcus said, once she's gone, we're splitting the lake house and retirement accounts. When you discussed my $2 million estate, I was 3 feet away cutting my birthday cake. The color drained from Jennifer's face. Marcus had the decency to look caught, but he recovered quickly. You misunderstood. I didn't misunderstand anything. You discussed dividing my assets while I was alive and standing right there. You've calculated my net worth. You have plans for what you'll do with everything after I die. If you're watching this and feeling that gut punch of recognition, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, because this story gets better and I want you here for all of it. Mom, that came out wrong. Marcus shifted into damage control mode. We were just talking about estate planning. That's normal, responsible even. We wanted to make sure we understood your wishes, that everything would be handled correctly when the time comes." "My wishes," I repeated. "You want to know my wishes?" "Yes," Jennifer said desperately. "Of course we do. My wish is to spend my money on myself. My wish is to experience life instead of saving every penny for children who apparently view me as an expiring asset. My wish is to die broke and happy instead of sensible and resented." The silence that followed was profound. I watched their faces cycle through emotions: shock, anger, calculation, a return to concern that looked increasingly manufactured. "You don't mean that," Jennifer finally said. "You're hurt and you're lashing out. We get it. But destroying your financial security to prove a point—" "I'm not destroying anything. I'm reallocating resources. There's a difference." Marcus tried a different approach. "Mom, we love you. If we've been insensitive about money, we apologize. But you have to understand, we're your children. We care about your well-being. Part of that is understanding your financial situation in case something happens and we need to step in. Nothing is going to happen. And if it does, I've already made arrangements. I've updated my power of attorney, my healthcare directive, everything. My lawyer has copies." "You changed your legal documents without telling us?" Marcus's voice rose. "Who's your power of attorney now?" "Patricia Montgomery. She's been my friend for 42 years, and unlike some people, she's never calculated what my death is worth to her." "This is ridiculous." Marcus stood abruptly. "You're behaving like a child. We were trying to be responsible, to plan ahead like you taught us to do, and now you're punishing us for it. I taught you to be responsible with your own finances, not to count mine before I'm dead." Jennifer started crying. Real tears, I think, though I was no longer sure I could tell. "We didn't mean it the way you heard it. Please, Mom, don't throw away our relationship over a misunderstanding." "I'm not throwing away anything. I'm simply choosing to spend my own money on my own life. If that damages our relationship, that says more about you than it does about me." Marcus pulled out his phone. "I'm calling Robert Lindsay. He's an elder law attorney. Maybe he can talk sense into you." "Call whoever you want. I'm not incompetent and I'm not being manipulated. I'm a 70-year-old woman making informed decisions about her own assets." They stayed for another hour, alternating between anger, pleading, and attempts at guilt. Jennifer brought up Christmas traditions and Sophie's upcoming dance recital. Marcus mentioned his firm's big case and how he'd been planning to invite me out to Seattle next month. I remained unmoved. When they finally left, Jennifer paused at the door. "What about us? What about your family?" "You'll always be my children," I said. "But you're adults now. Successful adults with your own lives and families and finances. You don't need my money, you just want it." "That's not fair." "Neither is waiting for your mother to die so you can split her assets." After they left, I sat in the quiet house and felt lighter than I had in days. The hard part was done. They knew. I'd reclaim my life from their calculations. Then I called the cruise line and booked a year-long world voyage. Balcony cabin. All-inclusive, departing January 8th. I used my credit card and didn't even flinch at the total, $162,000. I was 70 years old, and I was finally going to see the world. The weeks that followed were a blur of preparation and liberation. I sold my car, didn't need it for a year, and arranged for a property management company to maintain my house while I was gone. I updated my will, leaving the house to Patricia with instructions to sell it if I died during the cruise and donate the proceeds to the teacher's retirement fund. Marcus and Jennifer would each get $25,000. The rest would go to various charities. I didn't tell my children about the cruise, let them wonder. I spent Thanksgiving with Patricia and her family. Marcus had called twice inviting me to Seattle. Jennifer wanted me in Boston. I declined both. When Jennifer pushed for an explanation, I simply said I had other plans. What plans? Personal plans. The calls became less frequent after that. No more daily check-ins about my health or activities. No more invitations to family events. The mask of concern had slipped. And underneath was exactly what I'd suspected. children who'd been managing their inheritance expectations, not their relationship with their mother. December arrived with Vermont snow and a sense of anticipation I hadn't felt in years. I bought new clothes for tropical climates, warm layers for Scandinavian ports, comfortable walking shoes for cobblestone streets in Mediterranean villages. I got vaccinations and travel insurance. I read books about every country on the itinerary. Patricia helped me pack. "You're really doing this. You're actually leaving for a year. 365 days, 41 countries, 6 continents. What if they call? What if there's an emergency? Then you'll contact me. But Patricia, there won't be an emergency. They're fine. They have lives and families and careers. They don't need me. They need my money. And soon they'll figure out there isn't any left to need." I'd been systematic about the liquidation. The lake house money was mostly in the cruise and upgraded travel insurance. I'd moved other retirement funds into an annuity that would pay me a comfortable monthly income until I died, at which point it would stop. Nothing left to inherit. I kept $200,000 in accessible savings for emergencies and unexpected expenses. The rest, about $400,000, I'd earmarked for experiences. Train trips through Europe, a month in a Tuscan villa, scuba diving in Australia, a photo safari in Kenya. I was going to spend every penny on living. Christmas Eve, Marcus called. "Mom, Jennifer and I talked. We'd like to come visit you the week after New Year's. Clear the air, start fresh." "I won't be here." "Where will you be?" "Traveling." "Traveling where? For how long?" "Marcus, I'll be in touch when I'm settled. Give my love to Amanda and the kids." I hung up before he could respond. Then I turned off my phone, poured a glass of champagne, and toasted myself in the mirror. "To the next chapter," I said to my reflection. "To living instead of saving. To choosing myself." The woman in the mirror looked happy. Younger somehow. Ready. On January 7th, Patricia drove me to Boston Logan Airport. We didn't talk much during the 3-hour drive. What was there to say? I was doing something brave and probably a little crazy, and she was proud of me. At departure, she hugged me tight. "Send postcards. Take pictures. Be happy." "I will." Fort Lauderdale in January was a shock of heat and color after Vermont's frozen monochrome. The ship was magnificent, 15 decks, multiple restaurants, a library that made me weep with joy. My cabin had a balcony overlooking the ocean and enough space to feel like home. The first week at sea was adjustment. Learning the rhythm of ship life, meeting other passengers, discovering which activities I enjoyed. There were lectures on port cities, language classes, cooking demonstrations. There were people from everywhere. Retirees like me, some younger passengers on sabbatical, families with grown children. No one knew my story. No one knew about Marcus and Jennifer or the birthday party betrayal. I was just Lorraine, a retired teacher from Vermont, on the adventure of a lifetime. By the time we reached Cartagena, I'd made friends with 3 other women traveling solo. Helen was a 72-year-old widow from California who'd sold her house to afford the cruise. Pauline was 68, a former nurse from Texas who'd left her controlling adult son to prove she didn't need his permission to live. And Joan was 75 from Florida, traveling on money she'd inherited from her sister with explicit instructions to spend it on joy. We were not unique. The ship was full of older women who'd decided that security wasn't worth sacrifice, that the best inheritance we could leave was the example of a life fully lived. We arrived in Cartagena mid-January. The colors of the old city were intoxicating, yellows and pinks and brilliant blues. We walked the ancient walls, ate fresh ceviche, danced to street musicians. I bought a ridiculously expensive hand-embroidered tablecloth that I'd never used but couldn't resist. I posted a photo to Facebook that evening. Me smiling in front of the Cartagena Cathedral, sun setting behind me. The caption, Day 12, Colombia is magic. 15 minutes later, my phone exploded with messages. I'd forgotten they could track my posts. Jennifer called immediately. "Colombia? You're in Colombia on a cruise?" "Yes." "How long is this cruise?" "A year." Silence. Then, "You spent your retirement money on a year-long cruise?" I spent my money on my life, yes. That's insane. Do you know how much those cost? You could have saved it for you? That's what you were about to say, isn't it? That's not, Mom. This is irresponsible. What if something happens? What if you run out of money? What if you need medical care? I have excellent insurance and enough saved for emergencies. What I don't have is any obligation to die with a full bank account so you and Marcus can split it. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference. Marcus called next. The conversation was shorter and colder. He threatened to have me declared incompetent. I reminded him that I'd already been evaluated by my doctor and lawyer. He hung up angry. I turned off my phone, walked out to my balcony, and watched the lights of Cartagena fade as we sailed toward Panama. The ocean stretched endlessly in every direction. Stars filled the sky. Tomorrow we'd transit the canal. Next week, the Pacific Islands. I'd never felt more free. I'm writing this 11 months into my journey, docked in Barcelona for a 3-day port call. Tomorrow we sail for the final leg through the Mediterranean, across the Atlantic, back to Fort Lauderdale. 354 days at sea, 40 countries visited, countless memories made. I've snorkeled in Tahiti and ridden elephants in Thailand. I've watched the northern lights from a Norwegian fjord and the sunset over Santorini. I've eaten fresh pasta in Rome and street food in Vietnam. I've made friends from a dozen countries and proven to myself that contentment doesn't come from security. It comes from living. The money is mostly gone. The cruise, the excursions, the spontaneous adventures. I've spent around $500,000 in less than a year. I have enough left for basic living when I return. My house, my modest pension, my annuity. I'll live comfortably, just not extravagantly, and I'll never regret a penny. Marcus and Jennifer stopped calling around month 3. I get occasional texts, holiday greetings, brief updates about the grandchildren. Nothing substantial. They're polite strangers now, and I've made peace with that. I didn't lose my children over money. I lost them years ago, probably. I just didn't realize it until they toasted my simplicity while calculating my worth. The real gift was discovering I didn't need them to validate my choices. I spent 43 years teaching children, including my own, that happiness comes from within. I finally learned my own lesson. Helen, Pauline, Joan, and I are planning another trip next year. Nothing as elaborate as this. Maybe 3 months through Southeast Asia. We're shopping for the best deals, sharing resources, embracing the adventure. We call ourselves the Renegade Grannies, and we're proving that 70 isn't the end of anything. It's just another beginning. When I return to Vermont next month, I'll walk into my house alone. No children waiting to hear about my travels. No family gathered to welcome me home. Just me, my memories, and the absolute certainty that I made the right choice. Patricia is planning a small welcome back party. My book club wants to hear every detail. My former teaching colleagues are already scheduling lunches. My life will be full of people who value me for who I am, not what I own. As for Marcus and Jennifer, maybe one day they'll understand. Maybe they'll realize that the greatest gift I gave them wasn't an inheritance, but an example that watching your mother choose herself, even at 70, even after a lifetime of sacrifice, is worth more than any lake house or retirement account. Or maybe they won't. Maybe they'll stay angry and disappointed that I spent their inheritance on myself. Either way, it's no longer my burden to carry. I'm 71 now, tanned and fit and happier than I've been in decades. I've proven that it's never too late to reclaim your life. That dignity matters more than money. That the best revenge is living well. My only regret? That I didn't hear that whispered conversation sooner. That I wasted 70 years being the person everyone expected instead of the person I wanted to be. But I heard it eventually, and I did something about it. And that, as they say, made all the difference.